Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Picture a quiet room at night. The city is far away and the air is still. A clock ticks like a slow breath. Inside your head, another world turns. Cells speak in tiny sparks. Rivers of signals flow and branch. Among these rivers, there is a soft lantern. Many call it dopamine. It is not good or bad by itself. It is a guide, a gentle messenger. It tells your brain, this might be worth your time. This might be a prize. Long ago that message kept us alive. Sweet berries, fresh water, warm fire. Each one lit the lantern. The brain wrote notes. Do that again. Now in the modern day the same lantern still glows. It glows for sugar, it glows for likes on a screen, it glows for coffee and for music. It can glow for drugs too. The glow is only a signal. Pay attention. Because the lantern is part of learning, it teaches fast. When something brings comfort or joy, even for a short while, the brain marks the path that led there. It lays down a small trail. The next time the wind smells the same, or the room looks the same, or the feeling in your chest is the same, the lantern lights up early. It whispers, soon there will be a prize. This early light is a kind of guess. Scientists call it prediction. The brain tries to be ready. If popcorn smell once meant a movie, the smell becomes a sign. If a bright bottle once meant calm, the sight of the bottle becomes a sign. Signs can be everywhere. A corner store, a certain chair, a time of day, a friend's laugh, the weight of a hard afternoon. Each sign excites the lantern a little. You feel a pull. Your hand moves as if by itself. This is not because you are weak. It is because the brain is quick to learn. It loves to make maps from signs to comfort. Drugs press the lantern button in a strong way. They send signals that are louder than many ordinary joys. Because the signal is big, the brain pays attention. It writes thicker lines on the map. Remember this. At first, the loud signal can feel bright and warm like sunlight on snow. The edges of the day soften. Worry steps back. Pain quiets. And the lantern glows and glows. The brain takes this as proof that the map is useful. It saves the map and makes it easy to reach. Later, even the thought of the drug can start the glow. The cue alone becomes a tiny sunrise. Another player lives in this story. Stress. Stress is an old alarm that helped our ancestors run or hide. It tightens the chest, speeds the heart, and narrows sight. It turns the calm lake of the mind into choppy water. When a person is tired, lonely, or afraid, the alarm rings more often. At those times, the brain looks for shelter. If the brain remembers that a certain thing, food, a pill, a drink, a smoke, once quieted the storm, it will point to that shelter again, not because it is wise, but because it is fast. The brain says, this helped before. Try it now, and the lantern, always eager, nods along. There is a small trick in the way the lantern teaches. It teaches extra hard when surprised. If you expect a little reward and receive a lot, the lesson is bold. If you expect a lot and receive a little, the lantern dims and you feel low. Drugs can create a big surprise at first. They give more signal than the brain guessed. So the lesson is written in thick ink. Over time though, the brain shifts. It tries to keep balance. It may grow less sensitive to the drug signal. This is called tolerance. The lantern no longer flares as bright, so the person seeks more, not always for joy, but to feel normal again. When the drug is absent, the body may swing the other way. Sleep breaks, the stomach twists, the mind feels grey, the chest fills with a drumbeat of need. These are the body's efforts to find balance again. They feel rough and heavy. People call this withdrawal. In those moments, the lantern can misread the drum as a cue. It tells the brain, quick, return to the old map. The map promises relief. Relief is powerful. Relief is not bright like fun. It is deep like a long breath. The memory of relief can pull harder than the memory of joy, and think of waves shaping soft stone. Each small wave makes a tiny change, hardly seen. But wave after wave, a cave appears. Habits are carved in that same slow way. Do a thing, feel a reward, repeat. At first it is a path in grass, then a groove in soil. After many steps, becomes a rut in clay. Your feet find it in the dark. Your body knows the turns without thought. You arrive at the old door before you notice you are walking. This is how learning, which is a gift, can also trap. Still, this story is not about shame. It is about design. The brain is built to learn from reward and relief. It is built to use signs, to save time, to choose fast. Some people are born with lanterns that glow more easily. Some carry alarms that ring louder. Genes are like a faint music in the background. They set the key of the song high or low. Life adds the rhythm. A harsh month, a lost job, a hurt in childhood can beat a heavy drum. Friends and family add their voices. Some sing safety, some sing danger. The final song is a mix of all these sounds. You can almost feel how the brain tries to help. It does not wake and choose harm. It chooses a path it believes will help now. If a drug once made the world softer, the brain frames that moment in gold. It hangs the frame where you can see it in the corner of your mind. In a hard hour, your eyes flick to the frame. Your feet turn toward the old path. The more you walk it, the deeper it gets. And the deeper it gets, the more the lantern shines on it. Not because it is best, but because it is familiar. Look also at sleep. Sleep is when the brain files its notes. It moves the day's scribbles into long-term shelves. Without good sleep, the files are messy. The lantern flickers at odd times. Hunger shows up when you are full. Sadness shows up when the sky is clear. Many people who struggle with drugs also struggle with sleep. Each one makes the other worse. The tangle can be undone, but slowly with care. See how places and things turn into doors. A park bench, a yellow mug, the smell of rain on hot pavement, a certain song on the radio. Each can unlock the old map. You walk past the bench and feel a tug. You hold the mug and your fingers remember. You hear the song and your chest opens like a window. These are small pushes, not shoves. But a small push that comes again and again can move a life. In this calm view, the question "why can't humans stop?" changes into what patterns keep lighting the lantern. It is not a single answer. It is many gentle threads. Learning, surprise, relief, stress, sleep, genes, friends, places, time. These threads weave a net that can hold a person. But threads can also be unwoven. The same brain that learned one door can learn another. The same lantern that glowed for one path can glow for a new path. It will not happen in a day. It will happen with many small, kind steps. New maps begin with tiny acts. Call a friend when the alarm rings. Step outside and taste the air. Drink water and feel it cool your throat. Let music lift your breath. Walk to a place that does not hold the old signs. Wait long enough for the wave to peak and fall. Each time you do this, a fresh trail is drawn. The lantern learns to glow for a walk, for a call, for a glass of water. It learns to expect relief from safer doors. If you've ever thought, why can't I just stop? Remember the lake and the lantern. Remember how old the system is, how fast it learns, how hard it works to protect you in the moment. It is not a moral meter. It is a pattern machine. It needs time and gentle practice to change its maps, and it needs safe help. People are part of the cure. Voices can be cues too, cues that point toward light. A steady hand, a calm room, a plan made when the sea is smooth. These are also signs that can guide the lantern. For now, hold this soft picture. Humans don't keep taking drugs because they are broken. Many keep taking them because their brains learned quickly from big signals and deep relief. In a world that can be heavy, the grooves in the mind are real. The cues in the world are real. The body's balance is real. None of this means the story cannot bend. It only means the first chapter is strong. In the next part, we will move more slowly through the map. We will look at the tiny bridges between cue and act. We will watch how thoughts rise and pass like clouds. We will listen for the quiet ways the lantern can be taught to lead not to a room with no windows, but to a path that opens and opens again until morning feels close. Let us meet two helpers inside the head. One is the fast guide close to the lantern. It loves habits and shortcuts. It sits deep in the brain and works like a well-worn path. The other helper sits near your forehead. It is slower and likes to think. It can hold a plan, like carrying a cup of tea across a busy room. These two helpers are both useful, but when the lantern is too bright, the fast guide gets loud. The slow planner has trouble being heard. This is why urges can feel like a sudden tide. It is also why a simple pause can help. A pause is like putting a hand up to quiet the room. In that brief stillness, the slow planner can speak. It can say, "Let us wait 2 minutes. Let us breathe. Let us call someone." Small pauses build new strength. There is also the sense of the body from the inside. Notice your heartbeat, your breath, your belly. These inside signals are called interoception. When stress is high, the inside signals can feel mixed up or too loud. A person may read them as danger when there are only waves passing through. Gentle acts, breathing out longer than in, letting the shoulders drop, feeling the feet on the floor, can help the inside signals settle. When they settle, the lantern grows quieter too. Craving often comes like weather. It rises, hangs and fades. On a hard day it feels endless, but in truth it changes. You can watch it like a cloud. Give it a name. Here is the pull. Sit with it for a few minutes and notice how it shifts. Sometimes it tightens, sometimes it loosens, then it passes. This watching is not magic, but it is a skill. Each time you practice, you teach the lantern a new lesson. Not every cue must lead to the old door. Some cues can lead to waiting, to calling, to walking, to rest. Cultures and stories also shape the map. If a family treats a drink as the only way to celebrate, the lantern learns to glow at the start of every joy. If a friend group meets only in places full of old signs, the map keeps pointing back to the same rooms. But new stories can be written. Celebrations can be tea on a porch, a game in a park, a simple meal cooked together with laughter. New places can be chosen on purpose, bright, open, far from the old doors. The lantern learns from these choices too. Under all of this is a tender truth. Humans reach for drugs for many reasons. Some chase a high, Many chase relief. Some want to escape a sharp memory. Some want to join a circle and not feel alone. Each reason is a human reason. Each one deserves gentle understanding. When we see these reasons clearly, the path to change looks kinder. Because the answer is not simply stop. The answer is find other ways to meet those needs. Calm, comfort, connection, joy, these can come from many doors. And so we return to the lake. At night, the surface still looks smooth, but now you know more about the currents below. You can see the lantern, the fast guide, the slow planner, the old alarm, the signs in the world, the weight of stress, the power of relief. You can see how a person might keep walking the same path, not because they choose harm, but because the map is strong. And you can see how a new map can begin, one small mark at a time, until a fresh trail appears where there was only grass. Now imagine the lantern as a teacher in a dim classroom. It holds chalk and writes lessons across the blackboard of your brain. Each time a drug brings sudden relief, the chalk presses harder, the letters deeper, the lines more lasting. The board becomes crowded with reminders. This helps, this soothes, this is the way. But the teacher is not cruel. It is only doing its job, recording what seems important. The problem is not the chalk nor the board, but how brightly the chalk glows when drugs are involved. The glow makes the lessons difficult to erase. As scientists studied the lantern, they found paths weaving deep in the brain. One path runs through a small almond-shaped cluster called the amygdala, keeper of fear and memory. Another curls through the hippocampus, which tends the garden of time and place. The lantern shines strongest in the nucleus accumbens, where signals of wanting and learning mix like rivers at a delta. When drugs flood this delta, they reshape the soil, they dig new channels, cut sharp bends and speed the current. The old gentle streams are still there, but the river rushes mostly through the new carved course. That is why simple joys may seem faint. The lantern has learned to favour the louder stream. Scientists watch the brain with glowing pictures, colours swirling across screens. They see how cues light up old circuits, even when the drug is gone. A picture of a bottle, a flicker of a lighter, the crackle of foil. Each makes the same circuit shine. To the person watching, it feels like sudden hunger, or thirst, or ache. The body leans forward as if the prize were already near. In truth, the circuits are only echoing old lessons, but echoes can feel alive, as though the sound were happening right now. I'll drift deeper into this idea of echoes. Think of a canyon at dusk. You call out a word and the walls send it back again and again, softer each time, but still present. The brain, when cued, works like that canyon. A cue calls out, relief is coming. The lantern answers back again and again. Even if no drug appears, the echo itself can stir longing. Some people find this echo the hardest part, the craving that hums under the skin. Sometimes all day, sometimes all week. It is not always sharp, but it is steady like a low drum behind a song. Another thread is habit. Habits live in the basal ganglia, loops of wiring built for routine. Tie your shoes, brush your teeth, turn off the light. Each is a small dance you learned long ago. The dance repeats without thought. Drugs can slip into this same rhythm. A hand reaches, a lighter flicks, a pill is pressed into the palm. The body moves as if rehearsed. Even when the mind whispers not today, the habit steps in and performs. This is why change can feel like trying to dance against the music. The beat pulls you forward. Still, the brain is not fixed stone. It is more like clay, soft in some seasons, firm in others. Always capable of reshaping. The same learning that built one rut can carve another. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, the gentle shifting of wires and paths. Every time a person resists, waits, or chooses a new act, the clay moves. The movement is small, but many small moves shape a new vessel. Imagine making a bowl from wet clay. At first, the walls wobble, uneven, thin. With care and repetition, they grow smooth, steady, strong. The brain's vessel can hold new patterns in the same way. One question often asked is why some people seem more caught than others. Part of the answer lies in the lantern's brightness, which varies from one person to the next. Some brains glow fiercely at rewards, others shine softer. Genes play a role, so do early experiences. A child who learns comfort is scarce may have a lantern tuned to grasp quickly when comfort appears. A child whose world feels safe may grow a lantern that glows with patience. None of this is fate, but it is soil in which the seeds of habit sprout. Another part is stress, the constant shadow. Stress hormones like cortisol sweep through the body, tightening muscles, sharpening nerves. When stress is high, the lantern shines more desperately. Relief feels closer, and the urge to grasp grows strong. Life's hardships, loneliness, poverty, trauma, illness are fertile ground for this cycle. Each burden adds weight to the lantern's signal. The brain does not ask, "Is this good in the long run?" It asks only, "Will this soothe me now?" The answer drugs give is loud and quick. That is why stress and drugs often walk hand in hand. Consider the role of memory. The hippocampus does not forget easily. A smell, a taste, a sound can unroll an old scene in perfect detail. For someone who once found peace in a drug, these memories are painted and in rich colour. Years may pass, but the memory remains sharp like a pressed flower in a book. When opened, the scent rises again. This is why relapse can happen even after long quiet seasons. The pressed flower has not lost its perfume. Now think of time itself. The lantern and the brain live in rhythms, day and night, hunger and fullness, wake and sleep. Drugs can disrupt these cycles. They push the brain to stay awake when it needs rest, or to rest when it should wake. They scramble appetite, flatten joy, and blur dreams. Over time, the body forgets its natural rhythm. Without rhythm, the world feels jagged, unpredictable. People may return to drugs not for joy, but to smooth the jaggedness, to make a false rhythm that feels steady. Yet the true rhythm waits beneath, like a drum still beating under layers of noise. As you breathe in this thought, notice how many doors there are. A door of relief, a door of habit, a door of memory, a door of stress. Each one opens to the same room, but each door can also be closed, gently, slowly. Closing takes time. It takes patience, it takes building new doors, doors that lead to open air, to laughter, to gentle sleep, to soft mornings with tea. Each new door is a lesson too. The lantern can learn to glow for these as well. There is also the pull of culture and company. Humans are social creatures. We mirror one another without knowing. A laugh brings a laugh, a frown brings silence. In the same way, if a group shares drugs as a bond, the lantern learns that bond equals belonging. To step away feels like stepping into cold night alone, but there are other fires, other circles. Finding them is hard, but once found, they light the lantern in new, safer ways. Belonging is as powerful as relief. Imagine now the brain as a forest. Trails cut through it where feet have walked. Some trails are wide, clear, easy to follow. Others are narrow, almost hidden by grass. Drugs make the trails wide like highways. But every walk on a gentler path widens that trail too. With enough steps, the forest changes. The old highway becomes cracked, overgrown. Birds nest in its quiet. The narrow path of calm becomes broad, sunlit, travelled often. The forest is never fixed. It grows with each choice. This forest also listens to the heart. Emotions are like weather in the trees: wind, rain, sun, snow. Drugs can feel like sudden shelter, a roof pulled over in a storm. But true shelter also comes from patience, sitting under a strong tree, waiting for the rain to pass, knowing the sun will return. Learning this patience is part of healing. It is slow, but it teaches the lantern that storms are not endless. They come, they pass, they leave the forest green again. In all of this, the question softens. It is not why can't humans stop, but why does the brain cling so tightly to relief even when it harms? The answer lies in the lantern's old design, in its eagerness to help, in its quickness to learn. This eagerness can mislead, but it can also be guided. With gentle care, with support, with safe places, the lantern can find new light. The board can be written with new lessons. The clay can be shaped again. The forest can grow new trails. Picture the night ending. The lantern dims, the stars fade, and dawn touches the horizon. The world is still the same forest, the same rivers, the same paths. Yet the light is softer now. It shows not just the old grooves, but the fresh sprouts, the new tracks, the small doors not yet opened. These are the promises of change. They may not be loud, but they are steady. They wait for steps to walk them into being. The lantern we have been following has shown us its glow in moments of relief, in echoes of memory, in the carving of habits, and in the quiet lessons of stress and time. Now let us drift further into its story, towards the gentle horizon of what it means to change. Change is not sudden fire. It is a slow river, winding, bending, wearing down rock not in a day, but in years. It is the kind of force you barely notice until one morning you look and see a valley where there was once only stone. In the human brain, change begins with small sparks. A person resists for a moment. They breathe through a craving. They walk past an old door without opening it. These sparks are tiny, but the brain marks them too. Just as it once marked the relief of a drug, it now records the relief of waiting, of moving, of choosing a different act. The first few sparks are weak, but repeat them and the wiring starts to shift. The lantern notices. It glows in response. It whispers. This also works. At first the whisper is faint. With time it grows louder. Healing often feels invisible. Someone wakes each day, feels the same pull, and thinks nothing has changed. Yet beneath the surface the clay is softening. The grooves are shallowing. The forest is sprouting new trails. Scientists who study recovery see this slow reshaping in brain scans. Circuits that once lit bright at the sight of a cue begin to dim. Other circuits, those for planning and patience, grow stronger. The balance shifts like seasons turning, unnoticed in the moment, clear in the long view. The body helps in its own quiet way. With steady rest, with food, with gentle exercise, the rhythms begin to repair. The true drumbeat of morning and night, hunger and fullness, wake and sleep, starts to return. When rhythm comes back, the lantern finds new ground. It learns that safety can also be a cue, that calm can also glow. A walk in sunlight, a night of deep sleep, a hug held long. These begin to carry weight equal to the old signals. It does not happen quickly, but it does happen. Imagine now a person standing at a fork in the forest. One trail is the wide old highway, cracked but still familiar. The other is narrow, green, uncertain. Each step down the new path feels strange, clumsy, slow. Yet each step presses the grass down a little more. Each step leaves a trace. One day the path will be wide enough to feel natural. The lantern will glow when the person sees the bend, not because it leads to old relief, but because it leads to a sunrise, to a friend's voice, to a safe place. Support is part of this path. Humans are woven for connection. Alone, the lantern leans toward survival. Together, it leans toward belonging. A hand held in hard hours, a voice reminding that storms pass, a circle of people who know the same valleys. All of these are cues too. They light the lantern not with false relief but with steady warmth. Belonging fills the same need that once drove the search for drugs. It answers the same question: am I safe? Am I seen? The answer, when given with kindness, rewrites old lessons. Science speaks of hope in gentle tones. Neuroplasticity is not just for learning old habits, it is also the soil for new ones. Stress can be softened by calm practices, breathing, moving, resting, reaching out. Memory can be reshaped by making new memories to stand beside the old. Culture can change too, offering new songs, new fires, new circles. Each part of the human story carries both risk and repair. The lantern shines for both, depending on which path is walked again and again. Let us pause with the thought of craving as weather. No storm is forever. Even the fiercest wind dies down, the heaviest rain clears. If one can sit, breathe and wait, the sky opens again. To see craving this way is to see it not as command, but as passing weather. This shift softens its hold. It lets the lantern learn patience, and patience, practiced often, becomes strength. In closing this story, think of the lantern one last time. It is not an enemy. It is a guide, eager, sometimes too eager, but always trying to point toward what helps. It can be misled, but it can also be taught anew. Its glow can fall on poison, or it can fall on peace. The choice is not made in a single moment. It is made in many small ones, like stones laid across a stream. Step by step, a new crossing is built. Step by step, the old current is left behind. So why do humans struggle to stop taking drugs? Because their brains are alive, quick to learn, built to cling to relief and to repeat what once saved them. Because stress is heavy, memory is sharp, habits are strong, and belonging is deep. But the same reasons also carry the seed of change. The same brain that carved ruts can carve new paths. The same lantern that glowed for one relief can glow for another. The same human heart that once reached for harm can learn to reach for healing. And when the lantern finally learns to shine steady on new doors, doors of sleep, of laughter, of safe company, of quiet mornings, the forest feels different. The air is lighter, the trails are many, the horizon is wide, and though the old paths may always remain in shadow, they are no longer the only way. A person can walk in light. A person can keep walking until the lantern glows not for escape but for life itself. The story of a path is always simple at first. A few footsteps press down grass. The ground remembers where the weight fell. Rain collects in the shallow places, and sun hardens the soil. Before long, a clear trail appears where there was once only meadow. This is how habits grow in the human brain. Each act, each choice, each small relief presses a trace into the mind. The more the act is repeated, the deeper the trace becomes, until the feet find it even in darkness. It is not willful at first. It is just the nature of paths. Inside the brain, this work belongs to deep circuits shaped like loops. These circuits live in the basal ganglia, hidden below the folds of thought. They are the keepers of routine. Brush your teeth, tie your shoes, drive the same road home. These are the dances they choreograph. When a drug enters the scene, these same loops take note. If the lantern of reward glows brightly enough, the loops begin to choreograph that act too. A hand reaches, a substance enters, a surge of relief follows. The loop ties the steps together into one seamless rhythm. The next time the hand feels empty or the chest feels heavy, the loop begins the dance without needing a cue from thought. Think of the basal ganglia as a gentle drummer. It plays the beat of what has been practiced. It does not ask whether the tune is wise or harmful. It only asks, have these steps been repeated enough? The answer, once yes, becomes a groove, and grooves are not easy to leave. The drum plays on even when the mind whispers no. Scientists studying habits notice something curious. When a habit begins, the brain works hard. The frontal regions, the planners and analyzers light up with effort. But as the habit grows stronger, those regions go quiet. The brain no longer needs to think. The act becomes automatic, like a song sung without remembering the words. This is efficient for survival, but it can be dangerous when the habit is harmful. The very efficiency that lets us brush teeth without thought also lets the body reach for a drug without pause. This is why many people feel two voices within. One voice, calm and thoughtful, says, "I want to stop." The other, faster and deeper, moves the hand before the thought can finish. It is not that the thoughtful voice is gone, it is that the drummer is louder, steadier, practiced. Breaking this rhythm requires not silence but a new song. Habits are not only about the act itself, they're also about timing. Many people find cravings appear at the same hour each day, or in the same place, or after the same feeling. Evening comes, the day quiets, and the body remembers. Stress rises, and the body remembers. The smell of a street corner, the sight of a chair, the sound of a voice, all become notes in the song of habit. Each note alone is soft. Together they form a tune that pulls the body toward the old act. This is why change often feels like swimming upstream. The water carries you in one direction, and every stroke to turn away feels heavy. The stream is not moral. It is just the flow of practice. The longer the practice, the stronger the current. Yet even rivers can be redirected, with time, with stones placed carefully, with new channels dug. The brain too can be guided toward new habits, but it takes many small shifts to change its course. And imagine a person trying to break free from such a rut. Each day they decide again. Each day they fight the pull of the old path. The effort is immense, often invisible to others. The world may see only the stumble, the return, the relapse, but beneath the brain is shifting. Each pause, each moment of resistance, each step onto a different trail leaves its mark. The drummer notices. Slowly a new rhythm begins to form. This rhythm may start fragile. A person may replace the old act with a walk, a call, a breath, a glass of water. At first, the relief is small compared to the surge drugs once gave. The lantern glows faintly, uncertain. But repetition is the quiet teacher. With enough practice, the faint glow becomes steady. The drummer learns the new beat. The rut, though deep, begins to fill with grass again. Even in relapse, the lessons are not lost. The brain remembers both paths. It knows the old rut, yes, but it also knows the new one, however faint. Returning to the new path is easier the second time, and easier still the third. Each return teaches the drummer that there is more than one song to play. This is why persistence matters more than perfection. The story of habit is not written in one day, but in many, and so the forest of the mind is never fixed. Trails can deepen, but they can also fade. New trails can emerge where none were before. The brain, with its loops and grooves, is always ready to learn. The same circuits that once trapped a person can one day set them free. It is only a matter of practice, of time, of gentle steps taken again and again until the new path feels like home. Let us drift further into the idea of paths and how they become ruts so deep that even light seems trapped in them. When a wheel rolls down the same groove again and again, the soil hardens. The wheel no longer needs to be steered. It follows the rut as if guided by invisible hands. In the brain, this is how habits take root, not through force, but through the quiet repetition of signals. Each moment of relief, each escape from pain presses the groove deeper until the body and mind no longer ask questions. They simply move along the well-worn track. The power of this lies in the way the brain conserves effort. To save energy, it loves to turn repeated actions into routines. The basal ganglia, the keeper of habits, whispers to the rest of the brain, "Do not waste thought here." I know the steps. For brushing teeth, this is a gift. For reaching toward a harmful substance, it is a trap. The thoughtful mind sitting higher in the brain may protest. It may raise a quiet hand and say, "Stop." But the keeper of habits has already moved, and the act is nearly complete before awareness fully arrives. This is why so many people describe relapse as if waking from a trance. The groove carried them before they even realized they had begun to walk. Scientists have traced the loops of these grooves. They see signals starting deep in the basal ganglia, circling through the thalamus and returning like a boomerang. These loops are not evil, they are ancient tools meant to free the mind for higher thought. But when drugs provide a surge of reward stronger than ordinary life, the loops seize on it. They lock it in, rehearse it, and play it over and over until it feels like the most natural act in the world. The groove, once carved, resists change because the brain believes it is efficient. Now imagine the groove not as a line of soil, but as a canyon. Each use of a drug sends another stream of water down its course. The walls grow higher, the water flows faster, and soon the canyon is the only visible path through the land. Other paths still exist, but they are overgrown, narrow, hard to find. Joy in music, in friendship, in quiet morning light are still possible, but the canyon pulls most of the water away. This is why people often say that life feels flat, that ordinary pleasures seem dull. It is not that those pleasures are gone, it is that the canyon takes the flow. Yet canyons too can change. Rivers shift their beds over centuries, carving new valleys, leaving the old ones dry. In the brain, this shift happens through practice, through effort, through gentle persistence. Every time a person resists the pull of the old rut and chooses something else, however small, they send a trickle of water into a different stream. At first, the trickle seems nothing, but over weeks, months, years, it grows. New grooves appear, the canyon no longer holds all the flow, life begins to feel wide again. This process is helped by awareness. To see the rut for what it is, to name it, is to weaken its hold. Mindfulness, scientists say, is a way of stepping back from the groove. Instead of being carried by it, a person learns to stand at its edge and watch. They can see the urge rise, swell and fade, like water rushing through. The watcher does not jump in, they wait. And in waiting, they discover that the water does not last forever. Cravings, like storms, pass. This discovery is one stone laid in the bed of a new stream. The role of stress cannot be forgotten here. Stress is like rain falling hard on the canyon. It swells the river, deepens the rut, makes escape more difficult. In times of fear, loneliness, or pain, the canyon grows stronger. This is why support, rest, and calm are so vital. They are like dry seasons, when the water falls lower and the chance to redirect it is greater. A person who finds calm moments, who learns to soothe themselves gently, is like a builder laying stones to guide the water into fresh channels. Memory also shapes the rut. The hippocampus holds images of the relief drugs once gave, painted in rich colour. These memories act as reservoirs feeding the canyon. A simple sight, smell, or sound can pour water back into the old course, making it rush again. But memory is not only a danger, it is also a tool. New memories of laughter with a friend, of peace after a walk, of pride after resistance can feed new streams. Each positive memory adds strength to the fresh path. The lantern glows for these too if given the chance. Think of culture as the weather over the land. In some places, storms come often, feeding the canyon again and again. In others, the sun dries the soil, making it easier to build new streams. If a person lives among people who use drugs together, the weather is stormy, the canyon is fed daily. But if they step into a new circle where other songs are sung, the climate shifts. Slowly the land begins to change. Belonging to a healthier circle is like entering a valley where the rain falls less and the sun gives warmth. It does not erase the canyon, but it makes new growth possible. The wonder of the human brain is that even deep canyons can be left behind. The grooves never vanish completely, but they can fade into shadows. A wheel may fall into them now and then, but with practice it climbs out more quickly. Over time, the rut becomes less of a trap and more of a reminder. A place to see and say, I once walked here, but I walk elsewhere now. The brain, ever changing, rewards such persistence with new light. At the heart of this lies a simple truth. Repetition builds both traps and freedoms. The same circuits that memorize harm can memorize healing. The same ruts that hold a person captive can become dry ground while new paths bloom. It takes patience, support, and gentle persistence, but the change is real. The brain is not stone, it is living clay, always reshaping, always ready for a new story to be pressed into it. And so the paths that become ruts are not destiny. They are chapters. They are grooves written by repetition. But they can be followed by new grooves, new songs, new dances. The lantern can glow for life as much as it once glowed for harm. All it needs is practice and the steady belief that no rut, however deep, is the end of the road. Now let us walk deeper into the forest of the mind, where ruts soften into earth again, and where hope waits like morning mist. A rut is not forever, though in the moment it may feel like stone. The brain is a living land full of rivers and roots, always shifting beneath the surface. Even the deepest grooves, worn by years of repetition, can be softened by time and new steps. The forest knows this, for it has seen countless trails appear and disappear, marked first by feet, then forgotten, until only moss remembers. Healing begins as a whisper. The first steps away from the old rut feel awkward, clumsy, even false. The path is narrow, overgrown, full of stumbling stones, but every step makes it clearer. Every return strengthens it. The brain, which once rehearsed the old dance without thought, now begins to rehearse the new one. The basal ganglia, once the keeper of harm, becomes the keeper of healing. It is not quick, but it is real. This is the hidden gift of habit, that what once held you can also free you, if only you repeat the right steps. Imagine someone waking each day to the same pull, the same memory, the same groove waiting like a trap. Some days they fall in, some days they walk beside it, and some days they take a few steps down a different track. Each choice matters, though it may not feel so. Each choice teaches the brain to consider another way. The lantern, so easily fooled by false relief, begins to glow for these small victories. A morning without the old act. An evening passed in calm. A storm endured without retreat. These are sparks, faint but steady, that light the path toward change. The role of community is quiet but powerful. A circle of friends who understand, who hold space, who offer belonging without demand. This is like planting trees along the new path. Their roots hold the soil, their shade offers rest, their presence makes the path safer, more welcoming. Without them, the rut looms larger. With them, the rut becomes just one of many trails in the forest. The brain, tuned for connection, learns quickly from voices, from faces, from the warmth of being seen. Belonging itself becomes a new habit, one that pulls the wheel away from the canyon and onto gentler ground. Over time, the rut becomes less of a prison and more of a scar. It reminds, but it no longer rules. The brain still remembers, of course. A smell, a sight, a season may stir the echo, but the echo does not command. It passes like weather. The person stands at the edge of the old groove and says, "I have walked there before, but I do not need to walk there today." That statement, repeated across days and months, builds a wall of grass across the rut. It turns deep soil into meadow again. Scientists who study recovery often speak of plasticity, but the word can feel too cold. It means the brain is not fixed, but soft, able to reshape. Yet to those living it, recovery feels less like plastic and more like seasons. Winter passes into spring, not at once, but in slow, steady shifts. Snow melts, rivers swell, green shoots rise. The rut is still there, but grass pushes through, flowers lean over the edges, birds nest in its quiet. Life grows around the scar until the scar itself becomes part of beauty. The brain heals in this same way, not by erasing the past, but by weaving it into a larger story. Stress will still come, loneliness will still whisper, memory will still carry its pressed flowers of old relief. But now there are new flowers pressed beside them, moments of peace, laughter, connection, pride. The book of memory shows both pages, and the lantern learns to glow for both. The difference is that the new glow grows brighter with practice. Each kind choice, each gentle act, feeds the light until it shines steady enough to guide through storms. The question of why humans cannot stop is softened here. It becomes the question of why the brain loves patterns, why it clings to grooves, why it favours relief. The answer is not weakness, it is survival, written in old circuits. The challenge is not to erase this design, but to guide it, to let the grooves hold healing instead of harm, to let the lantern glow for life instead of escape. This is the work of patience, of compassion, of small steps, repeated until they are no longer small. In the end, paths that become ruts also become teachers. They show us the power of repetition, the strength of memory, the pull of relief. They remind us that we are creatures of habit, but also creatures of change. The forest of the mind is vast, and no single rut can hold all its trails. With care, with support, with time, humans learn to walk new roads. The lantern lights them gently, and the rut, once feared, fades into a shadow in the distance, a reminder of where they have been, but not of where they must go. And so we close this story with the image of a meadow at dusk. The old rut lies quiet, softened by grass. A new path winds forward, glowing faintly under the lantern's watch. The air is cool, the horizon wide. The forest is alive with possibility. The feet that once stumbled now walk steady, and the lesson of the rut is clear, that even the deepest groove can be left behind, one gentle step at a time. Storms have always been part of human life. Long before cities, long before machines, people huddled under trees and caves, listening to thunder move across the hills. A storm is not only a weather event, it is also a feeling of danger, of weight, of not being safe. In the brain, stress is the storm. It darkens the sky of thought, quickens the wind of the heart, and shakes the branches of calm. Every living being knows this storm. It is old, carved into the body by evolution. It was meant to keep us alive, but it can also drive us toward shelters that are not always safe. When the body feels stress, a chain of signals rushes through. The adrenal glands pour out hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. The heart pounds, muscles tense, the eyes sharpen. In the wild, this storm helped our ancestors run or fight. In the modern world, the storm often comes without a predator. It comes from bills, from loneliness, from memories, from loss. The body still reacts the same. The storm surges, and the person looks for shelter. For some, that shelter is found in a drug, a drink, a smoke, a pill. The storm clears for a moment. The rain seems to stop, and the lantern of relief glows bright. Relief is one of the strongest teachers the brain knows. Joy is powerful, yes, but relief is deeper. Imagine pain lifting after hours, hunger ending after days, or thirst quenched after a long walk. The sense of calm is immense, like silence after thunder. Drugs can mimic this relief. They soothe the storm, or at least seem to, and the brain takes note. It writes the lesson in bold. This stops the rain. Even if the storm will return, the brain remembers the clearing. The memory of calm becomes a beacon, pulling the person back to the same shelter again and again. The trouble is that the shelter is not steady. It is built on fragile ground. Drugs ease stress at first, but they also teach the brain to depend on them. Over time, the body learns less and less to soothe itself. The natural shelters, breath, rest, connection, time, grow weaker. The brain's own rhythms of calm are interrupted. Sleep falters, hunger shifts, emotions flatten or swing. The storm feels sharper, and the fragile shelter feels more necessary. A cycle begins: storm, drug, relief, storm again. The groove deepens, and the lantern glows brighter for the fragile shelter. Scientists studying stress and addiction see this cycle clearly. The amygdala, the brain's alarm bell, grows louder. The prefrontal cortex, the planner, grows quieter. The balance tips toward reaction instead of reflection. A person feels the storm and moves quickly to shelter, before thought can step in. It is not weakness, it is wiring. The storm feels unbearable, and the fastest path to calm becomes the strongest path in the forest of the mind. Think of a child lost in heavy rain. They see a hut nearby and they run to it. Inside it is dry and for a moment they are safe, but the hut leaks, the roof is thin, and the floor floods. Still the child returns each time because it is the only shelter they know. Over time they forget the trees, the caves, the natural places that could also protect them. The drug is the leaking hut. It works in the moment, but it cannot hold against the storm. Yet the brain, desperate for relief, clings to it. Relief also explains why quitting feels so heavy. Without the drug, the storm rages without shelter. Anxiety, sleeplessness, aching, emptiness, these are not just symptoms, they are the storm unsoftened. The brain, used to leaning on the fragile hut, now feels exposed. The urge to run back is immense. It is not about pleasure, it is about relief, about stopping the storm. Many people return not for joy, but simply to feel normal again, to find dry ground for even a short while. And yet storms do pass. No storm, however strong, lasts forever. This truth is harder to feel when inside the rain, but it remains. When a person learns to sit, to wait, to breathe, to endure, they begin to see that the storm itself changes. It rises, it peaks, it falls. To notice this is to gain power. It is to learn that the storm is not endless, that relief can come from time itself. This lesson is soft, but it is strong. It is a new kind of shelter, built slowly, built honestly, built to last. Other shelters grow from small acts. A walk under trees, a call to a friend, a slow exhale, a cup of warm tea. These do not silence the storm at once, but they steady the ground. They remind the brain of older ways it once knew before the fragile hut. Each act is a seed of resilience. With time, these seeds grow into strong shelters: trust, patience, balance, belonging. The lantern can learn to glow for these too. It only needs practice, repeated steps, the gentle rhythm of trying again and again. Storms will always come in every life. The question is not how to avoid them, but how to meet them. Drugs offer a quick hut with thin walls. The brain, eager for relief, runs to it again and again, but deeper within the forest are shelters of stone and wood, built from breath, from care, from community, from time. They take longer to find, but they do not leak. And once learned, they stand ready for every storm that follows. This is the story of stress, relief, and the fragile shelters people build. It is the story of how storms teach the brain to seek comfort, and how the brain can be misled by quick relief. But it is also the story of how new shelters can be built, how patience can be learned, and how storms, though fierce, always pass. In the next part, we will walk closer to the storm itself. We will see how it shapes the body, how it bends thought, and how even within its roar, seeds of calm can be planted, waiting to grow. The storm inside the body is both ancient and precise. When stress arrives, the brain signals down into the body with quick urgency. The hypothalamus, small but commanding, taps the pituitary gland, and together they call upon the adrenals. Cortisol flows like rain across every cell. Adrenaline crackles like lightning through the veins. The heart pounds, the breath quickens, the muscles prepare to run. This was once a gift of survival, a predator in the grass, a danger on the horizon demanded such readiness. But in the modern day, the same storm comes when there is no predator. A memory can summon it, a bill, a silence, a loss. The body cannot tell the difference. The storm rises all the same. The brain, caught in this weather, seeks safety. The prefrontal cortex, which usually plans with patience, grows quiet under heavy rain. The amygdala, the alarm bell, grows louder. Thought narrows, options shrink. In that narrowness, relief becomes the only star in the sky. If a drug once gave that relief, the brain remembers. It points toward it quickly, urgently, with little regard for what follows. The lantern glows not for joy, but for the promise of quiet. This is why many people return again and again, not to chase euphoria, but to escape the storm. Relief feels more powerful than joy because of contrast. If you are already content, a small joy feels gentle. But if you are in pain, in fear, or under a storm, relief feels immense. It is the lifting of weight, the clearing of sky, the first warm ray of sunlight after days of rain. Drugs offer this in an instant, and so the lesson the brain learns is strong. It carves the message deep. This is how to stop the storm. The memory of that clearing becomes a beacon, glowing even years later, triggered by cues as small as a song, a smell, or a shadow. But the clearing is false. The storm always returns, often stronger. Drugs may quiet the body for a time, but they also disturb the deeper rhythms that naturally bring calm. Sleep grows shallow, hunger shifts, emotions swing wide or flatten into grey. The body's own shelters weaken, and stress comes faster, harder, more often. The fragile hut leaks more with each visit, and yet the brain remembers only the first moments of dry ground, the first sigh of relief. It clings to that memory, chasing it like a sailor chasing a lighthouse, even when the light is false. Scientists studying this cycle notice how stress and addiction fuel each other. Chronic stress makes people more likely to turn to drugs. Repeated drug use makes the stress system more sensitive, more easily triggered. The two feed one another like storm and flood. This is why recovery feels not only like resisting a drug, but like learning to calm storms themselves. Without new ways to ease the storm, the brain will keep running to the fragile hut. It will keep returning to the same leaking shelter again and again. How does the body find new shelters? One answer lies in breath. Breathing deeply, slowly, with more time spent on the exhale, signals safety to the nervous system. It tells the storm to ease. The heart slows, the muscles soften, the sky clears just a little. Another answer lies in movement. Gentle walking, stretching, steady rhythm. The body releases tension, and the brain reads this as calm. Sleep too, though fragile, repairs the balance of hormones. With rest, the storms come less often, less fiercely. These simple acts are not quick like drugs, but they are true. They build real shelters that grow stronger with practice. Connection is another shelter, one of the strongest. When a person sits with someone they trust, when they hear a voice that steadies them, when they're held in care, the storm lessens. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, rises like a gentle tide. It quiets the alarm, softens the rain, steadies the lantern. Belonging in this way becomes medicine. A circle of friends, a group that understands, a safe space to speak. These are roofs that do not leak, walls that do not bend in the wind. Yet building these shelters takes patience. The storm does not vanish in a day, and the brain does not relearn quickly. At first, new shelters may feel weak compared to the sudden relief drugs give. A breath feels small, a walk feels slight, a call feels fragile, but repetition is the teacher. Each time these acts are chosen, the brain writes them down. Each time the lantern glows a little brighter for them. Over months and years, the weak hut grows into a strong home. The fragile roof is replaced by stone walls. The person learns that storms can be met with calm, not escape. Even relapse is part of this learning. Returning to the fragile hut does not erase the new shelters. The brain still remembers them. The path to them is still there, waiting. Each return to a true shelter strengthens it, even if it follows a stumble. The journey is not straight. It is a winding road through weather, through valleys and hills. What matters is not never stepping into the storm, but always finding the way back to stronger ground. This truth can be softened into a picture. A forest filled with storms, some sudden, some long. In one corner stands a leaking hut, easy to find, always close. In another, deeper in the trees, stand stone shelters, built from breath, from connection, from time. At first, the hut seems easier, but with practice the person learns to walk past it, to push deeper into the forest, to find the stronger shelters. One day the hut is no longer the first thought. One day the lantern glows for the stone shelters instead. The science of storms and shelters tells us that humans do not cling to drugs because they are broken. They cling because storms are heavy and relief is powerful. They return to what worked once, even if it fails them later. The challenge is not to fight the brain's longing for relief, but to teach it better ways to find it. To let the lantern glow for true shelters, not fragile ones. To practice again and again until the storms, though fierce, can be met with calm, with patience, with lasting safety. So when we ask why people cannot stop, we must remember the storm. We must remember how powerful relief feels, how deeply the brain writes it down, how natural it is to seek shelter. And we must remember that new shelters can always be built. With breath, with connection, with rest, with patience, the storms of life can be endured. And in that endurance, in that gentle learning lies freedom. Not from storms, but from the fragile huts that never truly held. Storms, shelters and relief form a cycle as old as life itself. In the body, stress rises like weather, harsh and unpredictable. In the mind, the memory of shelter glows like a lantern, pulling the feet back to old doors. For many, those doors are fragile huts built from drugs, from drinks, from smokes. They shield for a moment, then crumble, leaving the storm to return louder than before. Yet the story does not end with collapse. It can bend, it can shift, it can open into gentler chapters where new shelters stand strong against the rain. The human brain is not fixed stone but living forest. The grooves carved by storms can be softened. The fragile hut is not the only place to hide. Deep inside, the body holds ancient ways of calming itself. Slow breathing, steady rhythm, warm connection, soft rest. These are shelters of wood and stone built to last. At first they may feel weak, their walls thin compared to the rush of drugs, but every time they are chosen, they grow thicker, stronger. The brain, shaped by repetition, learns to light its lantern for them. The memory of safety grows brighter. Relief, once tied only to harm, becomes tied to healing. Think of a person walking through a stormy forest. They see the leaking hut first, close and familiar. They remember its false promise. But they also recall another place, deeper among the trees, where a fire burns steady, where the roof is strong. The path to that place is narrow, overgrown. Walking it takes effort. Rain stings, branches scratch, but each journey clears it a little more. Each step makes it easier the next time, and one day the person arrives without struggle. The hut still stands behind, but it no longer calls as loud. Science describes this change in gentle terms. Circuits in the brain, once lit by the thought of drugs, begin to dim. Other circuits, those for planning, patience and calm, grow stronger. Stress hormones steady. The amygdala's alarm softens. The prefrontal cortex, the planner, speaks more clearly. Recovery is not the absence of storms, it is the return of balance, the ability to stand in rain without running, to breathe through thunder, to trust that clouds will pass. This balance does not erase the memory of the hut, but it makes the stone shelter brighter, safer, more inviting. Relapse may still come, the storm may overwhelm and the old path may be walked again. But relapse does not erase progress. Each return to the stone shelter strengthens it. Each act of endurance writes a new line in the brain's book of lessons. The fragile hut is no longer the only story. It becomes a warning instead of a refuge, a memory instead of a destination. The lantern learns to glow less for it, and more for the places that truly hold. Community deepens this shift. To weather storms alone is hard, to weather them with others is easier. When people gather, share stories, hold hands through rain, the storm loses some of its weight. Oxytocin rises, calming the body. The lantern glows not for substances, but for faces, for voices, for belonging. Belonging itself becomes a shelter, stronger than any hut. In circles of care, storms pass more gently, the fragile hut fades in the background. The stone shelter grows into a village, with many fires, many roofs, many doors. Even science bows to this truth. Humans heal best together. The body's chemistry agrees. Stress softens in connection. Resilience grows in belonging. Relief can be found not only in chemicals but in kindness, in touch, in the shared rhythm of breath. These truths may sound simple, but they are written deep in the design of the brain. They are the foundations of strong shelters, waiting to be built. In closing, the story of storms and shelters is not one of despair. It is a story of design, of survival, of learning and relearning. The brain clings to drugs not because it is broken, but because storms are heavy and relief is sweet. Yet the same brain can learn new ways, can build lasting shelters, can light its lantern for calm instead of collapse. This takes time, it takes patience, it takes walking new paths until they are familiar, until they are home. So let the image linger. A forest after rain. The air is cool, the leaves drip silver, the soil smells rich. The storm has passed, as all storms do. In the clearing stands a stone shelter, warm, steady, lit from within. The fragile hut still leans somewhere in shadow, but it is no longer needed. The lantern glows for the strong shelter now, and in that glow, in that gentle light, lies the quiet truth. Storms will always come, but humans can always learn to meet them with shelters that last. A sign can be as light as a whisper. The smell of rain on warm pavement, the flicker of neon at dusk, the shape of a bottle on a table, each can tug at the body in ways words cannot explain. In the brain, these signs are called cues. They are not the thing itself, but they are tied to memory. They glow with the lantern's light, reminding the body of what once brought relief. A cue is a small key that opens an old door. It does not shout, it does not push, yet its pull can feel stronger than reason. This pull begins with learning. When the brain pairs an act with relief, it marks every detail nearby. The sound, the place, the company, even the feeling in the chest, all are stitched into memory. The next time any of these appear, the lantern glows early. It says, "Relief is near." The body prepares, the mouth waters, the pulse quickens, even if nothing has yet arrived. This is why walking past a corner store, or hearing a lighter flick, or smelling smoke can stir craving. The sign is enough. The door begins to open before the key is turned. Scientists call this conditioned learning, but in human terms it is simply memory tied to emotion. A child who tastes soup while sitting near a warm fire may forever link that flavour to comfort. An adult who takes a drug while hearing a certain song may forever feel a pull when that song plays. These associations are not chosen. They are carved deep by the lantern, by the brain's need to prepare for relief. They are why cues feel so strong, even when the thoughtful mind knows better. Think of a path in a meadow. At first it is only grass. Then someone walks it once, twice, a dozen times. Soon the grass lies flat and the path is clear. Cues are like markers along this path, stones, flowers, shadows that remind the walker where to go. Once noticed, they are hard to ignore. The body follows them almost automatically. A street corner becomes a bend in the path, a friend's voice becomes a signpost. The path itself is built from cues, and the lantern lights each one. This is why cravings often seem sudden. A person may feel calm, certain of their choice to stop. Then a small sign appears, and the calm unravels. The craving rises like a tide, fast and unrelenting. It is not weakness. It is the brain following a map it once drew, guided by signs it cannot forget. The pull feels stronger than thought because it is older than thought, rooted in circuits built to keep us alive. Yet not all cues are traps. Just as a smell or sound can trigger craving, other cues can trigger calm. The scent of lavender, the rhythm of waves, the warmth of a safe hand, these too can light the lantern. They remind the body of safety, of peace, of belonging. The challenge is not to erase cues, but to add new ones, to build new paths with new markers, to let the lantern glow for signs that lead to life instead of harm. Imagine standing at a crossroads of signs. To one side is the old marker, a familiar street, a flicker of neon, a bottle's curve. To the other side is a new marker, a favourite chair, a song that soothes, a call to a friend. Both signs glow, but one glow is brighter from repetition. The task is not to snuff out the old glow, but to strengthen the new. Each time the new path is chosen, the lantern grows warmer for it. Each time the pull grows stronger, until one day the new cues shine brighter than the old. This is why change often begins with the smallest things, a new routine at the hour when cravings come, a walk down a different street to avoid an old corner, a song played when the urge stirs. These are not trivial. They are seeds of new cues. The brain, quick to learn, notices them. It begins to glow for them. Over weeks, months, years, they grow into strong signs, leading the body away from the old path and onto new ground. Cues will never vanish completely. The brain holds them too well. But their power can fade. They can become like distant echoes, noticed but not obeyed. A person may smell the old smoke, hear the old song, and feel only a faint tug easily resisted. The lantern may flicker, but it does not flare. This is the quiet victory of building new signs. It is not the erasure of the old, but the dimming of their hold, the balancing of their light with others that shine stronger. So let us begin this story of small signs and strong pulls. Let us watch how cues guide the brain, how they stir the lantern, how they pull the feet down old paths, and let us see how new signs can be planted, how new paths can be drawn, how the same brain that once clung to harm can be taught to follow light. For in every forest of memory there is room for new markers, for new glows, for trails that lead not into shadow but into open air. The power of a cue lies not in its size but in its timing. A sign can be as small as the flicker of a flame or the hum of a streetlight, yet it carries the weight of years of memory. When the brain has paired relief with a certain sight or sound, that link remains. It does not ask permission. It does not wait for reason. The lantern glows as soon as the sign appears. A person walking calmly may suddenly feel their chest tighten, their hand twitch, their thoughts rush. They wonder, why now? But the answer is simple. A cue has spoken. This link is written in the brain through a process called associative learning. The nucleus accumbens, the amygdala, and the hippocampus work together to record not just the relief, but everything around it. The colour of the wall, the smell in the air, the laughter or silence, even the feeling of hunger or sadness in the body. The brain saves these details so it can predict the next relief. This prediction is not conscious. It is woven deep in circuits older than language. When those details return, the brain leans forward, expecting the same outcome. The lantern glows bright, and craving follows. Scientists have shown this in quiet experiments. A rat given a reward after a light turns on will begin to salivate just at the light, even if no food appears. Humans are no different. A person who once used drugs while hearing a certain song may find their heart race when the song plays years later. A smell of rain may remind them of a night when relief was found. The brain ties emotion to memory so tightly that the two are nearly the same. To the lantern, a cue is not a symbol, it is a promise. This promise can be both comfort and danger. Comfort, because cues also tie to peace. The smell of baking bread can calm the heart, the sound of waves can ease the mind, the sight of a safe face can quiet fear. Danger, because cues tied to harm can pull stronger than thought. A single sign can undo days, weeks, months of resolve. This is why recovery is not just about resisting drugs. It is about learning to live among cues, to weaken their power, to plant new ones. One way cues lose power is through extinction. When a sign appears again and again without the expected relief, the brain slowly learns the link is broken. The lantern glows less each time until the cue becomes ordinary again. But extinction is fragile. A single return to the old relief can reignite the glow, as if the lesson was never unlearned. This is why relapse often feels sudden. The cue was waiting quietly, and the old link was ready to return with only a spark. Still, the brain can be retrained. New cues can be built with gentle persistence. A person may choose to walk a different street, to play a calming song when the urge rises, to sit with a friend instead of alone. Each of these acts pairs a new sign with relief. Relief not from a drug, but from calm, from belonging, from patience. With time, the lantern learns to glow for these new signs. The pull grows stronger for them until they stand beside the old cues, equal in their power. Think of cues as seeds scattered across a field. Some grow into weeds that choke, others into flowers that heal. The weeds may return when watered, but the flowers can be planted again and again until they fill the field with colour. The old weeds may remain at the edges, but the field itself becomes bright with blossoms. The person walking through no longer sees only weeds. They see flowers, and their steps follow the new path. Stress can make cues sharper. When the storm inside the body rises, cues glow brighter. The leaking hut calls louder. The old signs feel stronger. This is why cravings often strike hardest when life feels heavy. The brain, desperate for relief, is more likely to obey old signals. But this too can be softened. Practices that calm stress, breath, rest, connection, dull the glow of old cues. They make space for new ones to shine. In calm seasons, planting new cues is easier. The brain listens more, learns more, glows more steadily for what is safe. Memory also shapes cues in quiet ways. A single moment of relief can be remembered more vividly than dozens of ordinary days. The brain frames it in gold, hangs it on the wall of the mind, ready to be seen at any time. But new frames can be hung too. A morning of laughter, an evening of quiet pride, a day endured without retreat. These can also be framed, also remembered, also used as cues for calm. Each new memory is another picture on the wall, softening the glow of the old. In the end, cues remind us that the brain is not only a thinker, but a rememberer. It does not just hold knowledge, it holds feeling. It ties them together so that life can be navigated quickly, without pause. This design is a gift, but also a challenge. It means that recovery is not a battle of logic. It is a weaving of new memories, new signs, new paths. It is planting flowers beside weeds, again and again, until the field itself has changed. So the question is not how to erase cues, but how to live with them, how to let the old ones fade into echoes, and how to strengthen the new until their glow is stronger. The lantern does not choose what to shine for on its own. It learns from us, it learns from practice, it learns from patience, and in time it can learn to glow for signs that lead not to harm, but to light. Cues are like echoes in a canyon. They repeat the past even when the present has changed. A song, a smell, a certain light at dusk, they all speak in the language of memory. For someone who once found relief in drugs, these echoes can stir the lantern into a sudden glow. The pull feels alive, as if the past is happening now. Yet the canyon is not the whole world. Echoes fade. New sounds can fill the air. This is the heart of recovery. Not silence, but new music that drowns the old calls with gentler tones. The brain is built to notice patterns. When a cue predicts relief, the pattern is stored quickly, deeply. That is why the smell of smoke or the sight of a bottle can stir such power. But the brain is also built to update its patterns. When a cue no longer brings relief, and when new cues bring calm, the pattern begins to shift. It does not erase the old, but it balances it. The lantern learns to glow for more than one thing. This is why recovery feels slow. It is the rewriting of maps, the softening of grooves, the teaching of a lantern that has burned too long in one direction. Relapse often teaches this truth. A person may walk a new path for weeks or months, and then one old cue sparks and pulls them back. They feel failure, but the brain has not forgotten the new lessons. The new cues remain, waiting. Returning to them is easier the second time, easier still the third. Each return strengthens their glow. Recovery is not a straight road, but a weaving one, circling back and forth until the new trail is strong enough to hold. What matters is not never hearing the old echo, but learning that it does not command obedience. Consider also how cues can be reshaped. A song that once signalled craving can become a song of endurance if paired with calm and patience. A place that once pulled toward harm can become a place of strength, if filled with new memories. The brain is flexible this way. It does not freeze cues forever. It allows them to be rewritten, to be linked with new meaning. A smell once tied to harm can become tied to peace. A season once tied to struggle can become tied to resilience. Each new link softens the old until the cue becomes just a shadow, not a chain. Community plays a vital role in this. Alone, a cue feels heavier, its pull stronger. Together, its glow is shared, lessened. When a person sits among the others who know the same struggles, the same signs, the same pulls, the cue becomes lighter. A craving spoken aloud loses some of its force. A memory shared becomes easier to carry. The lantern glows not just for the old cues, but for the new bond. Belonging becomes its own sign, a powerful cue that leads towards safety, not harm. Time also changes the landscape of cues. What once glowed fiercely can dim with years of distance. The body grows new rhythms, the mind builds new associations, the heart gathers new memories. Slowly the field of signs shifts. The old ones remain, but they lose their brightness. The new ones, practiced and repeated, shine stronger. The lantern, faithful teacher, follows the light that shines most steady. Relief once came from harm, but now it comes from calm. The pull remains, but it is redirected. Picture this: a meadow at dusk filled with markers old and new. On one side, a neon sign flickers, calling back to nights of escape. On the other, a chair sits under a tree, warm with memory of peaceful evenings. Both signs glow, but the chair shines steadier, warmer, more welcoming. The lantern turns toward it. The person walks that way. Each evening they return, the chair's glow grows brighter, until the neon fades into the background, a light too dim to follow. This is the promise within the science of cues, that the same brain which once bound relief to harm can bind it to healing, that the same signs which once pulled toward shadow can be reshaped to lead toward light, that no cue, however strong, is destiny. The lantern glows for what is repeated, what is practiced, what is given meaning, and meaning can change. So when we close this story of small signs and strong pulls, we see not only danger but hope. Cues are powerful, yes. They can tug the heart, stir the body, bend the will, but they are not unchangeable. They can be met with patience, with awareness, with new patterns. They can be softened by community, reshaped by memory, balanced by time. They can lose their power. They can fade into echoes, and in their place new signs can rise. Signs of calm, of belonging, of peace. The lantern will follow them as it always does, glowing not for harm, but for life itself. Every life is a house with many doors. Some doors open to sunlight, to laughter, to safety. Others open to shadow, to quick relief that fades, to rooms that close in tight. The brain learns which doors to open by watching what waits behind them. If one door once led to comfort, the lantern glows for it again and again. Even if the comfort is fragile, even if the room is small and airless, the lantern remembers the first light it found there. It whispers, "This is the way." And so a person may open the same door many times, even when they know the air inside is thin. Learning doors is the brain's gift. It is how we survive, how we find food, water, safety, company. A child learns which door in their home leads to warmth, which leads to scolding, which leads to silence. An adult learns which door brings calm after stress, which door opens to belonging, which to harm. Drugs once used often become such doors. They give relief and the brain remembers. It writes the lesson with deep ink. Here lies shelter. Soon the lantern glows brighter for this door than for others. It pulls the hand toward the knob again and again, but there are always other doors. They may be harder to see, hidden in shadow or behind habit. They may seem weak at first, their hinges stiff, their light dim, yet each time they are opened, they grow easier to find. The brain, ever a student, can learn new paths, new associations, new comforts. It can learn to glow for new doors. The process is not quick, but it is steady. Every repetition makes the hinge looser, the path clearer, the lantern brighter. Consider how the brain learns. It does not only note reward, it notes the path to it. If relief follows a certain act, the steps leading there are stored. The place, the time, the company, even the emotion before, all are stitched together as a map. This is why old doors feel so easy to find. The map is well worn, its lines dark and certain. New doors need new maps. They need to be walked often, marked clearly, reinforced with care. The more they are chosen, the stronger the map becomes, until it is as natural as the old. At first, though, the old map pulls harder. A craving comes, and the body moves almost without thought. The new doors feel far away, their light faint. This is why recovery often begins with small, deliberate choices. A walk instead of sitting alone, a call instead of silence, a cup of water instead of a drink. Each act may feel small, but it is a key turned in a new lock. The relief may be less, but the lesson is learned. This too can soothe. The lantern takes note. It glows a little for the new door, and each time the choice is repeated, the glow grows stronger. Scientists studying recovery see this in the brain. Circuits once tied tightly to drugs begin to loosen. Other circuits, those for planning, patience, self-control, grow more active. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape, is the foundation of these new doors. It means that the brain never stops learning, never stops building maps, never stops glowing for what is repeated. Even old doors, once thought permanent, can fade into shadow. Even new doors, once faint, can grow bright. Imagine a hallway filled with doors. One door has been opened so many times its handle is worn smooth. The person reaches for it without thinking. But further down are other doors, some dusty, some barely used. At first, it takes effort to walk past the old door and try a new one. The hinges creak, the air feels strange. But with time, the creak softens, the air warms. The person finds that behind this door is not shadow, but a wider room filled with light. The more they enter, the more the lantern glows for it, until one day it shines brighter than the old. This is the essence of change. Not erasing doors, but learning new ones. The old may never vanish completely. Their handles may still gleam in the corner of vision, but they no longer hold all the light. They become memories, not commands. The lantern, faithful and eager, learns to guide the hand elsewhere. It learns to shine for rooms that heal instead of harm, that widen instead of narrow, that bring breath instead of hunger. So as we open this story of learning new doors, let us walk slowly down that hallway. Let us notice how the brain chooses, how it remembers, how it glows for what it has learned. Let us see how old doors pull, how new doors begin, how repetition reshapes the map. And let us trust that no hallway is fixed, no set of doors unchangeable. The house of life is wide with endless doors waiting to be opened. All it takes is patience, practice, and the steady glow of a lantern willing to learn. Every door is a lesson. The brain does not only open it, it studies what lies beyond. If the room offers calm, the brain writes this down. If it offers pain, it writes that too. The lantern shines according to these notes, bright for what soothed, dim for what harmed. This is why old doors can feel irresistible. They once gave relief so intense that the brain carved the memory in stone. Each detail, the smell in the air, the angle of light, the taste on the tongue, was stored beside it. Opening that door again feels natural, even when the person knows the room is narrow and airless. The memory of first relief is strong, and the lantern trusts it. Yet the lantern can be taught new lessons. It can learn that other doors open to steadier rooms. A walk outside may not flood the body with relief, but it brings gentle air and space to breathe. Talking to a friend may not erase the storm, but it eases the weight of silence. These are quieter shelters, but they are true. Each time the brain notices their effect, it marks them down. The mark is faint at first, but repetition etches it deeper. With time, the lantern glows more readily for these doors, just as it once did for harm. Neuroplasticity makes this possible. The brain's circuits are not fixed. They bend, shift, and grow with experience. A person who has opened one door 1,000 times can still learn to open another. At first, the new circuit is fragile, like a thread of grass on stone, but each act strengthens it. Each repetition wraps the thread into a cord, the cord into a rope, the rope into a bridge strong enough to carry weight. This is why patience is vital. The brain does not change in a day, but it does change. It is always listening, always learning, always ready to glow for what is practiced. Consider the role of memory. An old door often feels magnetic because of the way the hippocampus stores experiences. The first rush of relief, the first escape from pain, is remembered with sharp edges and bright colour. The mind may recall it in vivid detail years later. This is why relapse can happen suddenly, pulled by a memory as clear as yesterday. But memory can also work for healing. A day endured without harm, a night of deep sleep, a laugh with friends. These too can be framed, remembered, revisited. With time, the wall of the mind holds both pictures, one of harm, one of healing. The lantern glows for both, and with practice it learns to prefer the latter. Stress makes doors more urgent. When storms rise, the brain looks for shelter quickly, without pause. The old doors, being familiar, seem closest. But stress can also be met with other keys. Breathing slow, moving gently, reaching for company. These are acts that calm the body. They may feel small compared to the rush of a drug, but they teach the brain new ways to stop the storm. Each calm breath is a turn of the key in a different lock. Each act of connection is a door open to wider air. Slowly the lantern glows for these, and the old doors lose some of their pull. Community helps the lantern learn faster. Alone, a person may struggle to see the new doors. Together they are shown, named, held open. In groups of care, people point and say, "Here is another way. This door leads to safety." Each voice is a lantern of its own, lighting the hallway. Belonging becomes a door itself, one that opens to strength. The brain, wired for connection, glows for it naturally. It begins to learn that company, not chemicals, can soothe the storm. That belonging, not escape, is the truest room of all. Culture shapes the hallway as well. Some cultures fill it with doors of ritual, music, gathering, storytelling. Others fill it with doors of isolation, silence, or escape. A person raised among one set of doors may believe those are the only ones, but stepping into new circles shows otherwise. New traditions, new ways of celebrating, new ways of grieving, all are doors too. The lantern glows for them once they are practiced. Healing often comes not only from closing old doors, but from opening new ones that culture itself offers. Think of the hallway again. The old door is smooth with use, easy to reach, easy to open. The new doors stand farther down, their handles stiff, their hinges creaking. At first, the effort to choose them feels immense. But each time they are chosen, the distance shortens, the hinge loosens, the light inside grows warmer. Eventually, the old door is no longer the closest. The new doors stand just as near, their glow just as strong. The hallway itself seems changed, filled with more light than shadow. This is the work of recovery, not erasing doors, but practicing new ones until they feel natural. The old will always remain, but they need not command. They become reminders, not traps. The lantern, loyal and eager, learns to guide the hand toward life, and the person, walking slowly, patiently, learns that their house is vast, filled with countless doors they never thought to open before. The image of doors lingers because it is more than a picture. It is the truth of how the brain works, how it learns, and how it changes. Old doors do not vanish, but they fade into the background when new doors are opened again and again. The lantern glows for what is practiced, and practice is always possible. This is the hope within every story of recovery, that no hallway is ever sealed, that no person is trapped forever, that new doors can always be learned. At first, the old doors still call. They whisper, they gleam, they pull the hand toward them. A person may stumble, may step through again, may feel the same shadow close in, yet even then the new doors are not lost. They remain down the hallway, waiting, their hinges oiled by every small act of trying, every breath of patience, every step of resilience. Returning to them grows easier each time. The lantern remembers them too, and each return makes its glow stronger. In this way, recovery is not broken by relapse. It is built by return. Science speaks of this in terms of neuroplasticity, but in human terms it is simply growth. The brain, like a forest, responds to the paths walked most often. Old trails may always remain, but new ones can be cleared, widened, filled with light. A door opened once is a possibility. A door opened 100 times is a habit. A door opened 1,000 times becomes home. The house of life expands with each choice, each repetition, each act of trust in something new. Consider how memory shifts with time. The old door may always hold its bright frame, its golden picture of first relief. But new frames can be hung beside it, images of laughter, a quiet pride of calm mornings. The wall of memory becomes a gallery, not a shrine. The lantern glows for many pictures, not only one. With enough practice, the old picture fades into the background, a relic rather than a command. The person learns to look at the whole gallery, to choose which light to follow, to trust that meaning is not fixed but growing. Stress still presses, storms still rise. In those moments the hand may twitch toward the old handle. But with practice the body learns other responses. A breath becomes a key, a walk becomes a key, a voice on the phone becomes a key. The storm passes, the new door opens, and the room inside is wider, steadier, safer. Relief comes not from escape, but from endurance. The lantern glows, and the lesson deepens. This too is a way. Belonging adds another layer. Alone, the hallway feels long and the old doors overwhelming. With others, the way feels shorter, lighter. Friends stand beside the new doors, holding them open, reminding that the light inside is real. Communities gather, creating entire wings of the house filled with safe rooms, warm fires, steady roofs. In such company, the lantern glows more brightly. It learns that connection is not only a door, but a whole foundation, a shelter built to last. Over time, the house itself changes. Where once the old door dominated, now there are many doors, many rooms, many choices. The person no longer feels trapped in a single pattern. They walk freely, moving through rooms of joy, of calm, of rest, of meaning. The old door remains, but it is small among many. Its glow is faint compared to the steady light of others. It is no longer the first thought, no longer the only path. It becomes simply a part of the house, not the house itself. This is the quiet triumph of learning new doors. It is not dramatic, it is not sudden, it is slow, steady, built on repetition and patience. It is built on trust that the lantern can learn, that the brain can grow, that life can open into wider spaces. Each person carries this possibility, no matter how many times the old door has been opened, no matter how deep the memory carved. The house is vast, the doors are many, and the lantern is always willing to glow for new light. So we close this story with a vision. A hallway once dark and narrow, now filled with doors of every kind. Some open to laughter, some to peace, some to belonging, some to the quiet joy of simply being alive. The old door still stands, its handle worn, its shadow familiar, but it no longer commands. The lantern glows for the others, for the doors that heal, for the rooms that breathe, and the person, hand steady, walks forward, choosing light, choosing life, choosing new doors again and again until they feel like home.